All right, man. Welcome to today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the three levels of sex in marriage. It's an exciting topic today. So, a lot of guys come to me with this problem. They tell me, my wife isn't really interested in sex. Our marriage is pretty good, except for our sex life isn't. I ask for sex, but usually she says no. Or when we do, she's just not really that into it. Or even I don't really even directly ask for it, because I feel like I'm sort of, using her in a way when I do ask for it. I know I used to feel like that, um, but I hope for it. I hope she will. I do little things, I drop little hints, but I'm not super direct about it. You know, and then when I don't get to have sex with my wife, I get frustrated, start fantasizing about other women. I look at pornography, then I feel bad about that. But I'm just not quite sure how to break out of this or how to create a good sex life with my wife. So that's really what I do. That's what I help guys focus on, and this is one of the big elements that I help teach. And so your brain's actually set up in sort of three different main areas. So one part of it's like the most ancient part of our brain. I'll just call it the physical brain. It helps keep us alive. It's like if you're watching the video, there's your brain stem. It's kind of like the very bottom of your brain. We share that with lizards and crocodiles and, all of those guys. Breathing, reproduction, the stuff that keeps us alive. Beyond that, there's an emotional brain. Okay. So this emotional brain helps keep us connected, helps understand emotions of other people. Like, you think about like a dog where it does seem to have sort of emotions, it can seem happy, it can seem sad, so it has sort of that type of brain as well. And that's what helps it be connected to others and helps us feel connected to it. And then there's the rational or the knowing brain. Okay, this is the part that makes us human. This is the cerebral cortex, this is the frontal lobe. This is the part of your brain that really is about knowledge, language, understanding, okay, and what makes us human. So when it comes to sex, I like to think about it in these three areas. So the first level is physical brain sex. Okay. So what's the purpose of it? It's really just to reproduce or to have an orgasm. Okay. Again, kind of going back to sharing this with other animals, this part of our brain, right? Animals don't really care who they have sex with. They do a little bit. I mean, it's based on the genetics and the strength and how attractive and all of that. But, you know, it doesn't really matter that much, Excuse me. The main point is just, get somebody pregnant. Um, so the other way that we think about that though is, releasing sexual tension or just kind of like getting your needs met, right? You have that drive to have an orgasm, your body's producing testosterone, it's producing sperm, it wants a release. Okay. And so it doesn't even really matter who that gets released on just at that level, it just needs to be released. So it's very orgasm focused. And I call this lizard brain sex. Okay. So lizard brain sex, again, it's just focused on the orgasm. Doesn't really matter who that orgasm comes out on. It's just it's just that. It's just about the sex. It's just about the orgasm. And guess what, guys? When you're approaching sex in this way, it's really not very attractive to your wife. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I have to have sex with my wife because that's the only way that I can do it and still be, within the bounds of my religion or my beliefs. And that's really the only reason I'm choosing her to have sex with. That's not very attractive to her. That's not choosing her. That's just about saying, well, and I used to think like this, saying, well, you know, I want to have sex and it has to be with my wife. So I guess, it'll be with her. Or if she says no, I'll be upset, right? It's really not attractive when it's just about that physical release, right? That physical connection, or not even connection, just that physical release. Okay, and so this is what pornography really plays on a lot, right? It's just about this, physical release. You see these girls on the screen; they seem really into it. it but you should know also that a lot of pornography is fueled by sex trafficking. So the girls, even though they look like they're into it, they're probably not. Probably a lot of things are sort of forcing them into that, most likely. But anyway, I mean, that's what it's playing on. It's just saying, hey, like, focus on the orgasm and you get to, see that without any real connection to them. So level two is emotional brain sex. Okay. And this is focused again on sort of what you can get out of the transaction. Okay. Which is a feeling of connection, a feeling of validation, a feeling that you are worthwhile, feeling adequate, feeling competent. Okay. So, and it's really about, wanting your wife to validate you, to help you feel good about yourself, to help you feel like, she cares about you. Mm. Sometimes it's also about avoiding negative emotion. Again, like if you're approaching her for sex mainly because you want to know that your relationship's okay. That's something I used to say a lot. It makes me feel like we're okay when we're having sex. Okay. That's still sort of this needy, graspy energy, you know, that you want that from her. But again, you want it from her. You want her to give something to you, right? Instead of having this transaction or this interaction where it's about knowing and intimacy, which we'll get into. Okay, it can also be about just avoiding that negative emotion, um, where like pornography, people can get hooked into it because they're just trying to avoid feeling anxious or feeling depressed or feeling sad or whatever, and they go to their wife and approach her for sex, and she says no, and then they feel disappointed and go to pornography to feel better. And this is that emotional brain level. You're using sex as a way to feel better about yourself. Okay. So when you're in this mindset, also, you're really overly focused on her pleasure and doing it right. Okay. You're constantly saying, does that feel good? Does that feel good? You're just trying to like kind of maneuver it so that she has an orgasm. Right. And sure, it's about her, but really, if you look deeply, it's more about you feeling competent as a lover, as competent in bed, competent sexually. Okay, that's really what you're going for. It's not. It's sort of about her, but it's actually more about you, and that's why when you come in, hey, does that feel good? Does that feel good? Does that feel good? It's really not attractive, and it doesn't lead to the type of intimacy that you want. So emotional brain sex, there are some benefits. There are some things that happen in your brain. Oxytocin's released that creates bonding between the two of you. That's released when you have an orgasm and during sex. So um, that does create bonding, and it does bring good feelings. So it's not to say that these are all mutually exclusive. I mean, you do have a sex drive, and that's physical drive. You do have emotional connection from sex, and that's okay. The problem is when you are only focusing on these ones, and that's what's unattractive to your wife. Okay. Again, this is emotional brain sex. It's validation focused. You want to feel good about yourself. Okay. Or with pornography, you're just trying to escape negative emotions. All right, so that's level two. So level three is rational or knowing brain sex. And this is really where we want to get to. And this is where real intimacy comes into a marriage. So this one's focused on really choosing your partner, getting to know them at a deep level, getting to know your wife, okay, knowing your wife and being known by her. And that, according to David Schnarch and what I believe in, that's what real intimacy is. It's knowing and being known. So this is what great sex looks like. It's sharing of yourself, right? So it's coming in and letting your wife know, hey, like I want this connection with you. I want sex to be a part of our marriage. And, I want to share my sexual desires with you and what is fun to me and what I like. And, in the moment, you're focusing not just on her pleasure, but on yours also and like what feels good. And it's kind of hard to describe, but when you really are just following the sensations and really being in the moment of it, it's really amazing. You're not so just like, oh, let me give you your orgasm, rub here, touch there. Um, it's just about being in that moment, feeling, sensing, being like really sensing and being in that connection. It's amazing. So, as you progress in that intimacy, you start sharing, here's some of my fantasies, here's what I'd like to try out, here's what I want to do, and listening to those from your wife as well. And that's where just amazing intimacy starts to come in. And it's kind of scary, to share those sexual fantasies. It's something you don't really go around talking to people about very much. And that's what's great about being in a marriage and being able to share that with somebody. And it's scary, but this is where that idea of self-validated intimacy comes in. For you, that's what you like, and that's what you like to try sexually. And, check with yourself, make sure it's within what feels in integrity to you. But as long as it does, you just go ahead and share that. Here's what I'd like to try. Here's what might be fun. And again, it's focused on knowledge, right? Knowing her and being known, sharing who you are, listening to what she wants. It's about you expose your bodies during sex, but real intimacy requires you expose your mind, right? Expose what you're thinking, expose what do you really desire. And that's where you can get just incredible intimacy. Yeah. So again, that idea of being in the moment, being in that connection, really feeling her responses. This idea from David Schnarch of actually opening your eyes during sex, looking at your wife's eyes during foreplay or during sex, it's takes things to a much deeper and more intimate level. So as kind of a quick tip, you can start trying that, and you'll see like it brings up different emotions. It brings up different connection when you're actually looking at each other and seeing each other in that way and knowing each other during sex. Yeah, it's amazing. It's much better. So the book I recommend about this is Passionate Marriage by David Schnarch. He actually just passed away, unfortunately, but that book, big turning point for me when I read that, and one that I recommend to that we read in the program. So, guys, look at this closely. How do you approach your wife when it comes to sex? If you're focused on physical or emotional brain sex, your wife doesn't like it because she's feeling used. And the truth is, she is being used. Okay. You are seeing her as an object to allow you to have an orgasm or an object to help you feel good about yourself. Anytime you approach sex in that way, it's going to be unattractive to her and she's not going to like it. Okay. So you need a new way to think about it. You think about your relationship with sex, then what I teach and what I believe is your relationship with things is really kind of the combination of your thoughts about something. So hopefully this opens your eyes and helps you see, you know, the way that you're thinking about sex is probably more of the issue than what you're doing. So if you're making it about connection, about knowing, that's where you want to be at. So again, if you're coming there and you just, hey, I want my wife to have sex with me so that I can have my orgasm and not feel like, uh, stopped up or whatever, she's not going to be super excited about that. Or if you're, hey, does that feel good? Does that feel good? So that you can feel like okay and competent. That's weak, needy. She's not going to like that. Versus coming in, hey, like, I want you. I love you. I want our relationship to be great in all areas, including sexually. I want to show you what I like. I want to know what you like. I want to really see you and experience you at a deep level. Okay, that's attractive. That's what she's gonna want. That's what she's gonna be looking forward to instead of like, "Oh, here he comes again. He wants me to, just give him his orgasm, or he just wants me to, make him feel good about himself again." No, like when you come in there and you're saying, "Hey, like I see you, I love you, I want you sexually, I desire you," that's attractive. Mm. So, are you saying to yourself, "I want a great relationship with you across all areas," versus "I want an orgasm or for you to make me feel better about myself." Like when you really look deep, what are you really asking for when you ask for sex? And the way that you can know is by how you feel when she says no to you. Okay. If you approach her for sex and she says no and you feel ashamed or disappointed, you can know that you are probably approaching it more from more from one of these other areas, that you're just wanting the orgasm or you're just wanting her to make you feel good about yourself. Versus if you approach her in this way, like, "Hey, I want to know you deeply. I want to connect with you. I want to, be there with you." You may still feel a little bit disappointed, but it's different than when, you feel disappointed and then you go to pornography, or you feel disappointed and then you get mad at her and pout and, walk away and, you know, act hurt and, do all those things that kind of signal to your wife, "Oh, you let me down and, this isn't okay." And you're basically just trying to guilt her into having sex with you. Which again is not the kind of sex that she wants. It's not something that's going to create intimacy between you guys. But if she says no and you've approached it in this way that's really about connection, you're not going to feel that bad if she says no. It's self-validated intimacy. It's you knowing that you've approached it in a way that you can be proud of. Okay. So when she says no, you still may feel disappointed, but it's going to be more about still wanting connection with her. Okay, like what's going on? How come you're not into it? And you may even say to her, maybe part of it's because I have approached sex in such a negative way in the past, and that again leads to real intimacy, connection of the minds, showing your mind, showing who you are. All right. So in summary, you can approach sex in three different ways: the physical way or physical level, which is just orgasm focused. Doesn't really matter. Like you choose your wife just because she's there, and maybe for your, religious beliefs, she's the only one you can have sex with. Um, so you're kind of stuck with that. Okay. So if that sounds familiar, just know it's not very attractive to her. Then there's emotional brain sex, which is more about validation, having her feel good about you, knowing that the relationship's okay, you feeling like a competent lover, really, you're very focused on her orgasm. And, but it's not really for her, it's more for you to feel like you're doing a good job. Okay? And then there's the rational or knowing, which is about intimacy focused, really knowing her at a deep level, connecting, wanting that relationship to be amazing across all areas. Okay, that's attractive. That feels good to you and to her. And guys, here's the thing. Your wife can sense which one of these you're going for. She really can. This is something I teach really strongly in the strongman system is what women pick up on and pretty much everybody is our intentions of our actions. So if you approach her, even if you use like the words that I used, if your intention is really just the physical orgasm or it's about getting validation, you're not going to have good results. But if your intention really is to know her, it doesn't matter that much the words that you use; those will come out. But she'll sense the intention, right, of what you really want. Okay? And that intention is what's going to make your advances more or less attractive to her. So check yourself. Why am I wanting intimacy with my wife? Is it really just about the physical? Or is it more about validation? Or is it because I really want to know her at a deep level? And be honest with yourself and get yourself in a good spot. All right. So guys, this is the kind of stuff I teach. This is what I help guys do is get more intimate with their wives. So to make yourself stronger, more attractive in all areas, and to have this great intimacy with your wife, come join us in the Strongman system. Love to have you. You're gonna have more intimacy in your marriage than you've ever had, or you get your money back. Like that's how confident I am in the program. All right, guys. So stay strong, men, and we'll see you next episode.